Hello everyone and welcome to my video. I do have to give a trigger warning because later in this video, I will be showing some footage between Diddy and Cassie. I need people to understand how vicious he was, what a cruel individual he was, because this video talks about men making excuses for Diddy, especially as they go around doing interviews talking about what a good man is and being a good role model.
A real man is knows how to unstrap from his
I don't know.
ego.
I think the real man thing is just a thing that people invented to excuse bad behavior.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Simon. We do philosophy through pop culture and we're using real people's lives to learn more about our own.
I think it's one of the hardest watches of the year, kind of functioning as the final boss of white feminism. The way she decided to frame that and the direction she took it had absolutely nothing to do with what Marlon Wayans was saying. One thing I will say though, I think if you have a good sense for what real men are, you don't date Nazis.
This is not a video that defends Julia Fox. This is a video that explores the idea of role models. This TikToker brings up the point that Julia Fox is herself flawed, which I agree with. Because he also decided to talk about Marlon Wayans' character, especially as it relates to him being a man, I thought it was important to dive deeper into the topic.
Marlon Wayans is very calmly trying to talk about in this clip is toxic masculinity, which really is what this entire movie is about. It was a movie about ego and violence and male athletes hyper-fixating on this sport and being selfish and not thinking about the damage they're doing to their own brain, their own body. Nothing Wayans is talking about has anything to do with what Fox is saying. He's not using the term real man to excuse anything. He's trying to talk about good male role models in a world that's being led by really shitty ones. You have Fox here just interrupting him over and over again. I have to say, he handled that like a real man. He was calm, he was respectful.
I would like to have had a chance to be with Cassie. Well, that's just my inner child. That just came out. Wow. I just said that.
Well, you know.
Wow, that just spilled out my mouth.
All of us got the well, don't say that either.
I'd be like, Puff, let me save you some money. I got this.
Man.
Send Punisher home. I got this.
Right. Yeah.
I just need you to get out.
Hey, man, but
or get behind the curtain. Get behind the curtain. Don't say nothing. Because if I hear, get that, I'm out. You guys, can you please?
Hey, man, can you imagine just being like, is somebody wearing a mask in
the court? Is that a bandana?
Yeah, man.
Wait, hold on. Is there an Arab woman with black eyes?
It is so clear to me that regardless of how we see somebody in one interview, the reality is that in another interview, they could expose themselves as a misogynist and a rape apologist, which is exactly what Marlon Wayans does. And so we need to talk about role models and what it means to be one. Before we get started, we need to address the elephant in the room. I am a white-skinned Assyrian woman who's speaking about a topic that has gone pretty viral everywhere, but specifically within the Black community.
I think a real man is in touch with his
Looks like a
feminine
duck
side,
and it walks like a
you know what I
duck,
mean?
yeah.
A real man is knows how to unstrap from his
I don't
ego.
know.
We see Marlon trying to give his honest perspective as a black male on the definition of what a real man is. But constantly throughout the clip, Julia Fox is interrupting him. And don't get me wrong, Julia Fox has excellent takes and I love to hear her speak. But in this video, I wanted to hear what Marlon Wayans had to say. We didn't fully get his perspective. It's hard to not be disappointed when another black actor is getting silenced in this industry. That video clip just brought me back to Io getting silenced in her interview with an Italian reporter. There's just so much history of when a black person is in the room and constantly getting talked over or just silenced.
I do watch a lot of content by Black creators, so it does come up on my feed. And because of that, I will make sure to reference a few of them in this video because this interview that recently went viral between Julia Fox and Marlon Wayans brings up two key points: the issues between racial dynamics of white women and black men, and the issues around misogyny and sexism.
With regarding all of it, the conversation that needed to be had no longer exists or is being spotlit in the same way of the dramatics that have taken place surrounding the situation. Not only did you talk over a man who actually had insight regarding the question being asked because he's the father of a trans man, but you also completely diminish and squash the conversation that needed to be had, period.
I would like to add a third category to the conversation, which is role models. Are Julia Fox or Marlon Wayans actually good role models? I'm going to explain why I don't think either of them are good role models, because on my side of the internet, I see a lot of women praising Julia Fox, but I find her white feminism to be not good enough.
Why would I lay down with someone who won't stand up for me? And these men, they're not mad. They don't care that women's rights are being stripped away because it doesn't really affect them.
How do you feel about all the attention that relationship got?
I mean, obviously I knew it would get some attention, but I didn't even have the scope to fully understand how big of a star he was.
Fox and Kanye West were very briefly linked in the beginning of 2022 after she separated from her ex as he was divorcing from Kim Kardashian.
But it wasn't like a grab for attention.
No, not at all. Like, if I wanted that attention, there were so many other celebrities and whatever that I could have gone, and I have dated, and it's still a secret. And also, I was not orchestrating. I was a puppet. There was someone else who was the puppet master, you know?
And then on the other side of my internet algorithm, I do see people praising Marlon Wayans as being progressively minded, as he has embraced his trans child. He is pro-LGBT seemingly. And yet I think that I maybe live on the internet so consistently that I see clips from people that I think makes it harder for me to see them as good role models.
The charges, they threw everything up against the wall. Yeah. And I thought dude was cooked. And
once they started, actually, you get both sides.
Yeah.
You could tell that he wasn't guilty on what they was trying to get him for.
Right.
Because it wasn't like a mob corporation. It wasn't like he was drug trafficking. He was just doing drugs.
Right.
You know what I mean? Brother like getting high on pink.
Disturbing new video appears to support some of the accusations of abuse against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs.
We want to warn you that this video you're about to see is extremely graphic. The surveillance footage that was captured inside of a Los Angeles hotel in 2016 allegedly shows Combs assaulting then-girlfriend Cassie Ventura.
Just being a responsible man.
Right,
You know what I mean? Like, there's things that you just don't do. And I hope he sat with God and got a new perspective on that. You know, there's things that you just don't do. Hitting women is one of them.
Hey, man, Marlon,
I think about it.
Right.
They get on your nerve.
This is going to become evidence.
Oh, I ball my fists up. And then I go on a walk.
A now settled lawsuit filed by Ventura claimed that she was trying to leave the hotel after a drunken Combs punched her. The video appears to show Combs chasing her down the hall, throwing her to the ground, and then repeatedly kicking her.
So when it comes to Julia Fox in this interview being painted as a woman who interrupts a man who's displaying stoic behavior, I'd like to agree to that point that Julia is being rude and interrupting, but I would like to disagree on the point that she was technically wrong. I do think she's not educated enough to really explain in depth why what Marlon said was incorrect. And to expand on that further, I want to sort of look at the content creator, the public offender, who is a Black father and content creator who focuses on sort of dismantling patriarchy.
Marlon has come out and been an advocate, and he has, like, you know, checked other men for saying homophobic things and things of that nature, right? But he has a lot of work to do himself. And this clip kind of perfectly encapsulates that, and it shows how men can compartmentalize certain aspects of the patriarchy because it affects them directly. They understand why it's harmful, but then from a holistic aspect, from a holistic standpoint, they don't understand how misogyny in and of itself is destructive and harmful.
I think the youth needs to hear what real men are. I think there's there's masculinity.
But what are real men?
Right. To me, a real man is a responsible man.
Because every time a man does some fuck shit, they'll be like, that's not a real man. And it's like, looks like a man to me.
I think that she got triggered by that because that statement of what a real man is often weaponized against women to gaslight women into thinking like, oh, that's like, these aren't the behaviors of men. These are isolated incidences. I see why she would be triggered by that. Like, if you're not a Christian and you're talking about how Christians act, and maybe you're talking about like white supremacy, right? You're talking about like Christian nationalism, and you're saying how it's bad, and then a Christian is talking about like, well, those aren't real Christians. You know what I'm saying? You're like, wait, why aren't they Christian? What makes them not real Christians? Because every time we think about Christianity, like this is what Christianity looks like in this country.
Marlon made the mistake that I think many men make, which is because I'm progressive or liberal in this sense, I must be deconstructed in every sense. And that's just not true for all of us. All of us are deconstructing on a spectrum. And so we have to be careful to catch ourselves when we think, well, I'm good in this way, so it doesn't mean I'm also good in this way.
If I'm around a racist person, I'm just not racist. I'm not. Me, I am not. They are, yes. But how am I supposed to help them ever? By cutting them off? No.
I find you offensive, so.
I think what I found most interesting about this conversation were the two communities coming together to talk about this issue. What was really interesting was hearing from Black women that also belong to patriarchal bubbles, talking about how white women feminism was being weaponized and basically used to bully men or disrespect men.
That clip of Julia Fox interrupting Marlon Wayans as she asked him questions about, so what is a man? What is a man? I feel like perfectly encapsulates a lot of what's wrong within the feminist movement. There was a creator on here I heard a long time ago who had a really good take on it. She said, some feminists don't want to get rid of the patriarchy. There's some white women within feminism who want to be the head of the patriarchy. They don't want to get rid of the structures that oppress marginalized people, women of color, people of color. They think that they should be the heads of those structures. They don't want a white man telling them what to do. They think that white women should be in charge of telling everybody what to do. Now, this isn't across the board. I'm speaking in generalities. This isn't true for everybody. But I have seen a pattern in feminism where it's like a lot of it is to benefit white women, and I feel like the condescending nature in which Julia Fox spoke to Marlon Wayans just showed that feminism has become more about embarrassing men.
Obviously, we can't view Marlon and Julia outside of the constructs of the reality that they're Black and white, and yet they're also men and women. So through the lens of patriarchy, Marlon has more status than Julia. But through the lens of racism, white women traditionally have more status than Black men. And so the question is, as we deconstruct these bubbles, can we view this clip without our biases and prejudice playing a role in how we view them? But I think it's just interesting how on one side of our mouths, we talk about respecting women and showing dignity to men, and on the other side we uphold these men who are doing neither.
I got all his money, all his dick. I can't be faithful. What me lying? You out your mind, Mom. Why am I gonna lie to a woman with all this dick? That's crazy. No, I wasn't ready to be faithful. I had to get some gray hair in my dick. The skunk had to happen. I had to grow up, man. I never wanted to get divorced. Right. And so I needed to become a man. And it took my parents to go for me to finally be like, I could see myself getting married. Oh, wow. I could.
Man, nobody gonna marry your old ass.
Here, pull his old ass long, soggy, used up penis out. Who want this? Who want this?
And I just wonder how many people have seen these clips of Marlon and how many care, or if it matters to them. Is he just being a funny comedian, so it doesn't matter?
Hey, man, talk to me about getting caught cheating on this boat.
God damn it, man.
Yeah.
I put it in my special. I'm sorry, kids. Sorry, Ange. But I put my truth on stage. I felt like Jay-Z. I was like, yo, I'm going to get a boat. But I forgot to take Beyonce and Blue Ivy with me.
Right. Yeah.
And so I was on a boat with a young lady, and paparazzi caught me.
Like I said, I already have issues with Julia Fox, so this isn't about supporting her or protecting her. But I just have to question, why are we talking so badly about Julia and we're not mentioning anything about Marlon? And how isn't that misogyny taught through patriarchy?
I could judge you for hitting a woman, but as a friend, I would pull him to the side and be like, yo, if I ever seen that, I'd be like, yo, you can't do that.
Yeah, man.
I don't know what people you got around you, but somebody got to sit you down. You can't do that. So whatever time he spent is between him and God.
Yeah, man.
Right? That time that he spent in that position, that's between him and God. That time was spent for him to grow. And I hope when he gets out that he's a different man, better man, assigns himself to God.
I also saw a lot of white women coming for Julia and claiming that she's a misandrist and misandry has no place in feminism. But what Julia is displaying has nothing to do with misandry. So what are these people talking about?
That conversation with Julia Fox and Marlon Wayans is exactly why I will die on the hill that there is no room for misandry in feminism. That conversation is such a difficult watch. Like, I haven't been able to finish it because Julia is just, whoo, girl, that was difficult. But basically Marlon Wayans is trying to explain that, men don't have good role models and it's a bad thing. And she just keeps interrupting him and rolling her eyes and being like, well, what does it mean to be a man? I felt like truly she was just being obtuse and missing the entire point. And I saw somebody in the comments being like, oh, I love this. This is what men do to us all the time. They always talk over women when we're trying to express how we feel in our struggles. Babes, if I'm ever acting like a man, I know I'm doing something wrong. I can't understand why women think acting like a man is feminism. Acting like a man, the way men act is the root of all issues on planet Earth. There is no reality where I'm duplicating men's behavior in the name of feminism. That, we've already started on the wrong foot. And that aside, what he's saying is correct. There are no good male role models. And that is why so many young boys especially are ending up on these like alt-right incel circles online, which result in really violent and harmful behaviors against women where they are being unalived.
We were raised right. I know. I would like to have had a chance to be with Cassie.
Right.
That's just my inner child. That just came out. Wow. Puff, let me save you some money. I got this.
I understand why everyone watched this clip and ran with it, but I can't jump on board and agree. But that's not to say that Julia Fox might not be racist. I don't know, and it's very possible. But for me, since I've seen what he said about Diddy and Cassie, it's hard for me to have sympathy for him in this moment. I don't understand in what world you would defend Diddy in any way. I'm also tired of hearing people talking about getting right with God. Which God is going to get right with Diddy? Because it sounds like those patriarchal gods are once again giving men excuses to be abusive. And again, of course, I'm open to the reality that people haven't seen these clips and they don't know that Marlon said these things about Diddy. And so in isolation, they're just seeing a clip of a woman being rude and interrupting, and worse, a white woman being rude and interrupting a black man. I'm very empathetic and sympathetic to optics, but when you have all the facts, are the optics the same?
To further add on what she's saying, I think there's this false narrative of what real men do, and I think it's tied into, privilege and masculinity. And I think exploring that in films is important because, we're raising these young boys to be men, and we can go that extra step to educate boys. And on that journey of how to, tap into the femininity, the vulnerability, that way we can further protect women.
Because all of our communities end up being impacted by the patriarchy and therefore misogyny. So I'm Assyrian, my family come from Iraq, and what I've noticed in my family legacy is in one side of any of the men in my family, they'll be like, women are great, they're amazing, they're smart, they'll watch an anime and be like, this girl is beast, I love her. But then on the other side of their mouth, they'll vote for Trump. They'll mention how much they like Andrew Tate. They'll talk about how men need to be leaders and women need to make babies. It's like some men do go on a journey of deconstructing patriarchy, but fall into a category where they think they've done enough and they're not even close to finished. And I think Marlon Wayans falls into this category, much like Julia Fox falls into her own category of white woman feminism, thinking she learned one thing about feminism and therefore she knows everything about feminism. Obviously, there's a lacking.
Did I seriously just wait 16 hours to get slapped in the face in front of the dead Pope? I walk them out and then get on my hands and knees and scour the carpet for cocaine residue, mistakenly rubbing cigarette ashes on my gums. I come to in an ambulance with vomit all around me. Even the paramedics are covered in vomit. On a routine visit to the probation office, I scan my hand and get an unexpected notification that I've been randomly selected for a drug test. Luckily, my dad gave me his pee, which I had warmed up in the microwave before biking over, so I'm not worried. I ordered 200 hissing cockroaches from Madagascar and convinced my old friend Serena to release them in the club in exchange for $100. I sit down and feel something hard stab me in the butt. I push the blanket over to reveal a 9mm Glock.
And just a disclaimer, I did listen to the audiobook for Julia's book, Down the Drain, and I came away disliking her more than ever. Listen to me when I say that if I had read this book in my teens or early 20s, I would have eaten it up. But now as a 36-year-old person who's lived a life, gone to therapy and healed and done the philosophical work, this book reads like a villain writing their own story to sound like the good guy. And I'm not alone in thinking this. I actually found a review on Goodreads that kind of reflects my thoughts as well, or at least this paragraph does. I want to read it for you. This post on Goodreads says, written from the point of view of a person who is a villain and doesn't have any self-awareness to admit or even realize they're the villain. The book is written as if she is still a hurt teenager and I dare say the mean girl. There is no real retrospection. She gets mad at others and victimizes herself for doing things she has done over and over to other people. To be clear, I'm not basing my opinion of the book on her character. However, I want to point out we get stories about her being betrayed, but nothing about how she feels about how she herself has betrayed others. I just want to stop there and in my own voice tell you that the thing that I found lacking from the book was grown-up Julia, present-day Julia, reflecting on her past self. It almost felt like her past self was writing the book in present time, except this isn't teenage Julia publishing the book. This isn't early 20s Julia publishing her book. So it felt weird that present-day Julia would add no reflection to the book about all of her mistakes or the things that went wrong or how disgusting her childhood really was, but instead it felt like a romanticized piece of how these abusive moments made her quote, the future it girl. And then to add a chapter in her book about dating Ye.
You said that part of why you dated him was to help Kim out.
Yeah.
And you did tell me that.
I know.
And I thought it was weird when you said that. I was like, yeah. Oh,
it
yeah.
makes sense.
It makes sense.
But also when you grow up watching someone on TV, you do develop this like parasocial relationship with them. And like,
yes,
you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
I was really like, oh,
helping a homegirl.
Yeah, let me hear back. And also like, I'm bipolar. This man is bipolar. Like maybe I can like help, you know? But people did not like that. I think because people automatically just want to assume that like I like knew what would happen. Like, first of all, I did not know that the man would meet me and then want to date and then make me his like mute. Like I didn't know any of that was going to happen. Like I genuinely went in it like, well, what's the worst that could happen? If anything, I just help out a precarious situation, you know? But obviously people don't ever want to believe anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. The whole thing just felt very icky and I didn't feel good after reading it. And ultimately, I think Julia Fox, like everybody on this planet, including Marlon, have great potential to be great people and nobody's perfect, but there are just certain lines that can't be crossed, especially not when you're on tour for a movie that's about good role models. So through the lens of patriarchy, Marlon has more status than Julia, but through the lens of racism, white women traditionally have more status than black men. Maybe you feel differently from me, but I don't know how in any way the same man that is talking about making a movie called Him about toxic masculinity and fighting red pill movements is also doing an interview where he jokes about wanting to have sex with Cassie and missing out on Diddy parties. The same man who's talking about, well, maybe if Diddy is right with God, a man who says he believes in God and walks with God, but also makes a whole special about cheating on his wife. And if you're new to my content, I do think cheating is a form of abuse. So for me, I'm watching a man who's engaged in abusive behavior, making a special about it, talking about it like it's a joke. And then I see a man downplaying Diddy's crime, saying, well, he's not a sex trafficker. He's just a freak. He's doing a freako, right? Not a Rico. It's like, this isn't funny to me. So when I see Julia Fox, when I see Marlon Wayans, I see people who, yes, have struggled, yes, who have overcome, yes, who have done a lot, who have reached success, done all the things. But I also see two people who haven't deconstructed enough and are not progressive enough and honestly aren't safe enough. They're not good role models. And so the question I think we need to pose for one another is, what is a good role model? Now, I think first and foremost, we shouldn't pedestal people. And I know coming from my background, I think one of the most devastating experiences I had as a child is having the realization that my parents don't know better. It's really devastating to look at your elders in the community, look at your grandma and grandpa and aunties and uncles and say, oh my gosh, like you're kind of dumb. And dumb is a really difficult word because it's stigmatized, it's racialized, it's moralized. We look at intelligence as a moral judgment. You know, if you are morally good, you must be smart. But smart people are evil every day. So again, when we have these conversations, I understand that as a child, the way that I processed realizing the adults in my life didn't know better was not only soul crushing, but then my responsibility to then kind of become an adult that breaks a generational curse or stops that generational trauma from continuing. The reason I was so interested in this topic about role models, it really came from sort of my desire to deconstruct why some of my brothers ended up a particular way. I have 8 brothers, and some of them really are thoughtful, and yet there's like a limit to their thoughtfulness. And a big part of it is that they really identify with the idea of being a man. It's very important to them that they're a man. So this goes back to Marlon Wayans saying, you know, a real man does XYZ, and Julia Fox saying, well, like, what is a real man?
Oh, let me save you some money.
The same people who raised me my whole life saying like, we'll protect you, men are your protectors, were also warning me to be worried about men in bathrooms with me. So are like men our protectors, or are they also our predators? Are men safe, or are they not safe? And this overlaps in so many ways throughout our life when it comes to so many different topics. I just covered a story on stream about a single father who wanted to do a sleepover for his daughter. I have no problem with men hosting sleepovers, but I do have a problem with men who haven't deconstructed hosting sleepovers. It's not that you're a man, because I don't really believe men is a thing in terms of like that construct binary thing that we think it is. Like, I don't think a man is what people think it is. But I do think men who haven't deconstructed are dangerous because even if they don't intend to, they will cross a boundary, to be fair. And I think this is what's so important. This also relates to Julia Fox and her white feminism. Just because she's a woman doesn't mean she knows better. This goes back to this idea that just because we're minorities doesn't mean we're automatically deconstructed or introspective. I do think, though, when you're a minority and you're curious, you aim for introspection, extrospection at a higher rate. So on this channel, we do philosophy through pop culture. And what we're trying to do is take a viral moment and say, how does this match up with my life? How do I use this to better my life? So when I look at Julia Fox and people say, Brittany, you'll love Julia, read her book. And I read her book and I say, excuse me, why did you think I would like this book? I have to realize the people who are resonating with Julia are probably, well, they probably have a similar background to her, one. And two, they probably really do see her as some sort of like heroine, somebody who went from a really, really toxic childhood to someone who's now successful. But what I see her as, and this is what's really hard for people, is a person much like, you know, a Trisha Paytas or somebody similar who came from a bad childhood and used every excuse to manipulate and take advantage of people who on the backs of minorities rose to fame. Because remember, and I think this is such a valid criticism of Julia Fox, at the end of the day, she got with Kanye and utilized that relationship with him when he was at the height of his toxicity. And this idea that she has twisted the narrative to say I did it to quote protect Kim or distract him from Kim is absolutely not true. No matter how much she likes to feed that narrative, I just can't believe that. And not to mention that I just saw a preview for the new Kardashian show, and not that I watched the show, but it does come up on my feed. And apparently the girls are doing a collaboration with Julia without talking to Kim first.
We asked Julia Fox to be in our campaign because she's a girl's girl, she's a cultural icon.
Does Kimberly know?
So I definitely wanted to talk to Kim about if she felt comfortable with us using Julia Fox because Julia Fox dated Kanye.
So the toxicity runs deep in these Hollywood bubbles. When we talk about role models in our own families, we can be disappointed in a different capacity than when we see celebrity people disappointing us on that in that same way, right? I think this is a difficult topic because it's just so layered, right? The racism, the misogyny, the classism, it's hard to deconstruct it, but deconstruction doesn't mean to destroy, right? We want to pull it apart. We want to pull it apart and see what consensus can we come to? Is Marlon Wayans a good role model in so many ways? Sure. Is Julia Fox a good role model in so many ways? Sure. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. Are they even up to standard? Not mine. And so you have to decide, is this your standard of role model? And I understand we are flawed beings. We are not perfect. And some of us, myself included, we love a role model with a little bit of a background. Growing up, I felt like such a sort of traumatized child. I was like, how am I going to have a role model that didn't experience trauma? How am I going to look up to people who haven't struggled? And so I understand that we want our role models to also have struggled, but we want our role models to have healed from the struggle enough to give us the wisdom we're looking for. We want role models who are Uncle Iroh.
I can take care of myself by myself.
You sound like my nephew, always thinking you need to do things on your own without anyone's support. There is nothing wrong with letting people who love you help you.
And on that note, Marlon Wayans did do a sacrilege and attacked anime, and none of us were pleased.
You know, one of my first ones was Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
Valid.
Can I say it?
Go on.
Fuck anime. You dumbass.
Whoa.
We came in number 2 to him first. Fuck anime.
Why, bro?
Nah, bro, that's
so
disrespectful,
I was up
bro.
against it. Him came out the same week, this next weekend after whatever that was.
Oh, the Demon Slayer? Was it Demon Slayer?
Yeah, Demon Slayer.
That's a movie.
But that's why anime
I want
scares
to
me.
wax your beard off your face, and at the same place he gets his asshole bleached.
You can't, disrespect anime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I could deep dive into the irony of how beautiful anime role models actually are and important for us. I guess on that note, I should expand on one specific thought about anime and role models that I find ironic. Two groups of boys can watch Vinland Saga and come away with two different lessons. That boys can watch JJK and come away with two different lessons. Obviously, when you watch these shows, it's pretty clear to me who's the good guy, bad guy, and yet here we are arguing about which one is which. FD Signifier has an amazing video, probably multiple videos at this point, about how Eren Yeager is not the good guy, and the fact that he had to make it in the first place is the irony.
It has been argued to me over and over that Eren is the villain at this point, and that the rest of the story becomes about stopping him from doing this evil plan. And I want to roll with this interpretation, but my issue is that a lot of young boys and men, and plenty of young ladies, are too attached to the power fantasy that Eren represents to ever fully see him as the villain, to be fully critical of them and see him really for what he is, and to see what the author maybe was trying to do with his particular character in this story. Eren commits atrocity after atrocity after atrocity. Please understand, before the global genocide, he had done a lot of other fucked up shit. And as his presence and influence contributes to more violence and spreading of horrendous ideologies, you'll still hear a lot of fans defend him. And this bothers me probably more than it should, because what I often hear when I hear these defenses is something along the lines of, Aaron had no choice, or what would you do if you were in his position?
How in the world did boys watch Attack on Titan and think Aaron was the good guy? For the same reason immigrants voted for Trump, my parents included. It's like, can we not tell who the good guy and the bad guy is? But obviously we can't, because here's Marlon Wayans in an interview with Julia Fox, and everyone is saying she's so rude, she's so awful. He's obviously the stoic, wonderful, respectful, good role model of a man. And yet I have seen a clip of him being an absolutely disgusting display of, quote, what a real man is. And again, this goes back to that original commentary. What is a real man? We have got to get away from this gendered prescription that says you are a good man, a bad woman, that your gender plays a role in your morals. Your gender has nothing to do with your morals.
4 essential tasks of a Christian husband. Number 1, pursuer. According to Ephesians 5:22 through 33, in the relationship in marriage, the wife represents the church and the husband represents Christ. Who pursued who first? Jesus pursued the church first, and then the church responds. Therefore, a man is called to pursue a woman, and the woman is called to respond. Number 2, provider. Just as Christ provides for the church, a husband is called to nourish and cherish his wife, according to Ephesians 5:29. Number 3, protector. 1 Peter 3:7. Likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as the weaker vessel.
Ew. Respectfully. But because we live under patriarchy, gender is forced on us, and that's what we need to get away from. We need to deconstruct it. Not that you don't have a gender, not that you aren't a man, not that you aren't a woman, not that you aren't non-binary or on a spectrum or fluid, but that you being this thing has nothing and tells me nothing about your morals, values, ethics, how you show up in the world. We have to stop assigning value to gender. And that, at the end of the day, is what Julia Fox was trying to say to Marlon Wayans.
But what are real men?
Right. To me, a real man is a responsible man.
Because every time a man does some fuck shit, they'll be like, that's not a real man. And it's like, looks like a man to me.
Then I got a call from Ange. You out your mother. I said, Ange, it ain't what it looked like. I said, see, they didn't even get the good stuff. There was actually more women on the boat. I made it worse. Hung up on me, man. And then I had to go home and face the music. You're going to tell Angela, because it's pictures, right? You're going to tell Angela, yeah, you was on the boat. And there were mermaids. And the mermaid rescued you and brought you on the boat.
This is comedy, right?
This is real. This man told me, we're going to tell them mermaids. Get your stupid ass away from me. I go to Angela's house, and I've got a Bible in my hand. I have protective wear, because this is a black woman house. She had black. So I know I was meeting the side. She was going to beat the shit out of me. The kids, they beat me up. I had the Bible and the protective gear, and she was like, don't do this. And she laughed. She was like, don't make me laugh. I hate you. And she laughed.
Damn.
And then I sat down, and I had to tell my kids and Angela the truth. And I said, you know, what happened was we was on a boat, and there was some mermaids.
And that is exactly the thing that I would love for him to deconstruct, is this idea that a real man even exists. And then for Julia Fox, what I would love for her to do is read a few more books and obviously educate herself in an intersectional way, because even though she has her moments and we love a viral like little meme from Julia Fox and we love a fashion queen, at the end of the day, she's just not educated enough to speak on this manner in a way that doesn't rub people the wrong way. But that's not to say that we excuse any of the misogyny thrown her way. Again, we want to go for people's ideas, not the way they look. Though I understand the temptation, I've certainly come for how people look before. I'm trying to get away from that myself. And so listen, I'm not saying anything about other people that I try to hold myself to the same standard that I hold all of the people I'm criticizing to. I know that I've needed to deconstruct. I know I have committed all of the sins. I know I am not a perfect person. But again, we're not going to break this generational curse in our family. We're not going to break this generational trauma unless we are the family member, the community member that says no more. So just like the last few podcasts I've made, ultimately, my work is about community. My work is about acknowledging that as I look at my own family structure, I see the misogyny. I see the patriarchy. I have my dad who in one side of his mouth says he raised me to be a CEO. And on the other side of his mouth says I have to have kids or I'm not going to be joyful as a woman. Even though we have good intentions, even though we come from what we feel are good families, our families are not perfect. And a lot of our families are bad. If you really start talking about our family history, if you eventually graduate from the little kids table to the big kids table and you start learning all of the lore of your family and you are honest about it, there is so much evil we have got to say no to. And it starts with ourselves. Am I going to hold myself accountable for how I show up? Am I going to check myself when I say certain things? And am I going to make sure to forgive myself when I do, as long as I learn from it and change my behavior? You cannot learn to forgive yourself or others until you learn embodied change. The change doesn't just happen logically, it has to happen embodied. And that will show up in the work that you do. So for Julia Fox, the way that will show up is in her content, the way she posts on TikTok, the way she shows up. Right now, it's just deeply immature and traumatized, okay? Marlon Wayans, how it will show up is in his comedy, in his humor, in his interviews. I cannot get over him downplaying Cassie's assault, what Diddy did to her, and him just making jokes about missing an opportunity to be with Cassie is so unforgivable. I am not the one to be forgiving him for this, and so I won't be, but I don't care how long he waits for God to do it. I don't think there's a God coming. And that also plays a role in how we all have these conversations. I don't believe in God, but maybe you do. And if Marlon is waiting for God to forgive him, and that God is never coming, I am obviously very curious about your opinions. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comment sections down below. Thank you for watching, liking, and subscribing, and I'll see you guys for the next one. Bye-bye.
There is no one like you. There has never been anyone like you. There shall never be anyone like you. Therefore, know yourself. Be yourself. Authenticity is everything.